a podcast to honor the gods.
This better come with a sacrifice.
Deus Ex Media.
Content and Capable acknowledges the Indigenous people on the land on which we record this podcast, the Turungurung people. We offer our respect to their elders, past, present and emerging, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. Sovereignty was never ceded. Before this week's episode of Content and Capable gets started, I've got a really super announcement that might be a little bit scary for you all. Joining the Deus Ex Media team is the podcast Super Scary with my good friend Josh. If you haven't heard about Super Scary before, the trailer will be at the end of the episode, but Josh kind of delves into everything scary movies and everything superheroes movies, and kind of explores all those movies. You would have caught me on an episode a couple of months ago about Everything Everywhere All at Once. That was such a fun episode. Josh is like a hilarious friend of ours that Christina started working with at one of her previous jobs. He was creating this podcast, and we thought it would be a really great addition to our catalogue of podcasts. The Deus Ex Media Network is always looking for new podcasts, so definitely go check out our website down in the description or the notes of this podcast, whatever, to find out if you have an idea for a podcast or want to join the network. There's a little link on our website that allows you to do that. We're always listening and looking for new podcasts. Definitely go check it out there. Here's the episode. Welcome to Content and Capable, where someone's giving me a microphone. I'm not quite sure what to do with it, but I have just started recording my voice in weird situations and seeing whether Christina lets me publish it. I'm Sam. I am the host of Content and Capable, and joining to me today is the wonderful AshyAnne, all the way from stupidly hot Queensland. Hi, Ashy. It's lovely to have you on the podcast.
Hello. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
For those who may not know who you are or why I made a very weird Queensland reference, do you want to have a quick explain of what you do on the internet?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am a content creator. I'm going to put it out there in the beginning. I can't stand the word influencer because I don't feel like I'm influencing anything. I make content on both TikTok and Instagram, primarily TikTok. Mostly comedy, but obviously I'm a jack of all trades and I'm a human being and there's nuance. So my content is whatever you're going to get that day. It's really a lucky dip some days, depending on whether I wake up in a good mood or not, or if I have a bone to pick with the societal structures that I'm annoyed with that day. I have been doing that since, 2020 when we all joined the internet, and I've been really fortunate to have grown in a way that it's enabled me to make this my full-time job.
Yeah, it's definitely been a fascinating... I always am very fascinated by people who, especially through 2020, blew up on the internet, and then have converted... And even podcasters to an extent. Like, I'm not a podcaster by trade. I'm a journalist by trade.
Yeah.
Who convert, their success in podcasting to a full-time job. I've recently spoken to a full-time podcaster. So it's probably the first time I've actually really spoken to one. And it was weird because even they can't quite pinpoint of like that particular time you're like, oh, I can make a living out of this. I can quit my job.
Well, truthfully, I wasn't in a position to make it my full-time job until about midway through last year. Don't know how much I can say because there is an NDA involved. But my previous employer basically gave me the ultimatum of it's this or your job, and I just went, stuff your job. And I crunched the numbers. I spoke to my husband, who's very supportive. I'm really fortunate in that way. And we worked out that this is absolutely something that can keep the roof over our head, which in the current economic climate, I realise is absolutely a privilege and something that I feel very fortunate for every day. So, yeah.
It is a very fascinating thing, and I think, I think also there is a lack of original Australian content, especially as we headed into 2020. I did a lot of media analysis in the lead up to 2020, just by nature of the study I was doing, and we always talked about how there was a lack of Australianness, and when, like, for example, a movie that was made in Australia got released, it kind of, if it appealed to an American market, it bombed in Australia. If it appealed to an Australian market, it bombed in the States. Yeah, and obviously you want things to blow up in the States because that's where all the money is.
Yeah, just a bigger population.
And like the no bullshit, I'm going to fucking speak my mind kind of content that you created, I think really, look, I'm basically stating the obvious because this is why you have a job out of it, but, you know, it really resonated with people because it's like, I kind of wish my influencers sweared, or I kind of wish, you know, I kind of wish my influencers spoke about, you know, the problems that they've had, or the stupid situations that they get, you know, they get put in, you know, from time to time. I think the pandemic especially made influencers way more understandable because they were in the same situation.
Yeah, well, I think the pandemic also shifted the way that we wanted to it shifted our mindset in the way that of what kind of content we wanted to consume. Sorry, that's where I want to say that. So if you look at pre-pandemic, when, you know, times were good, whatever, we were doing whatever we wanted, we were looking at people who inspired us to and were very aspirational. So I hate giving them airtime, but you think about the Kardashians, and what they showed us were these things that, like, realistically, you and I never going to experience. We are never going to live in these ridiculous mansions with their perfect kitchens that are so aesthetically pleasing, and you're looking at that going, I don't see chicken nuggets anywhere. Whose kitchen is this? It ain't mine. And their unattainable beauty standards and just the wealth that they so blatantly flash. And it's not to shit on the Kardashians, because that they are known for being aspirational, and that is the vibe they put out, and that the people who watch them because they look up to them, whether I think that's right or not. And I think in the pandemic, we were all sort of a little bit like, oh, fuck, what's happening? What's happening in the world? I don't want to look at the Kardashians who are in lockdown in these beautiful mansions, who aren't actually experiencing any real hardship. They're not in a hospitality role, and they've just been made, you know, they've just been fired because the places had to close down, and they don't actually know where their income's coming from, and they don't know how long they're going to be in lockdown. And they know people didn't want to see that anymore, because I think it just frustrated them, and it made them feel even more sort of hopeless in a time when we really didn't know what was going on in the world, and we wanted to feel a bit more connected to the people we were seeing online, because for some of us, the people we were seeing online was our only form of social interaction. And even though it's a parasocial relationship, it's definitely not a legitimate, out in the world, touchy-feely. Those parasocial relationships became so important to some of us. And so we needed to see people who we could see ourselves in, not necessarily people who were advertising a lifestyle that we will never, ever experience, and who were so out of touch with what the rest of us were going through. And like, I even look at myself as being quite fortunate during, you know, those lockdown periods, that where I live in Townsville in North Queensland, we didn't have any lockdowns. There were certain industries, obviously, that were affected by the federal legislation that came out around COVID. But for us particularly, it very much felt like life as normal. So I even felt a little bit privileged and a little bit guilty that I was getting up, dropping my kid at daycare and going to work as normal, And on the weekends, we could
Yeah.
still go do the grocery shopping, and we could still go to Bunnings, and we could leave our house and we could actually go and do things. So I still felt a little bit guilty in that sense, because I felt like I was showing people the outside, and a lot of these people couldn't go outside. And I was like, ooh, because other than the first, I think it was like the first 3 or 4 weeks when our weekends were like one person could go to Coles. But like after those first couple of weeks, our lives returned to normal, and it was like COVID who? And I don't know whether that's a reflection on the sort of backwards culture that we experience sometimes here in North Queensland, where we're sort of detached from the rest of the world and we think nothing affects us in our little tropical paradise, or whether it was because we were just really fortunate and our COVID cases were so insignificant and so few that we didn't have to take those precautions. And I felt awful for the people in Melbourne, particularly, who were just in lockdown after lockdown after lockdown. And yeah, even in that regard, I felt like I was being a bit obnoxious. Like, look at all the things I can do out of my house. Woohoo!
Also, it's a great tourism marketing thing. Like, everyone was like at home, couldn't do anything, and then all they see is, you know, these amazing people who live up in North Queensland going, look, I get to do whatever I want. And when we did this, you know, let's all travel, you know, because COVID restrictions had finished up and you could finally actually leave Victoria, which I'm a Brisbane boy. I've only moved down to Victoria recently. But like, people are like so desperate to go up to Queensland, and we'll go anywhere in Queensland at this point. I think it is because we're as a state in general, we're very backwards.
Yeah. Well, I worked I was in a human resources role, but I was mainly focused on recruitment. And I was like, the number of people I was seeing apply for jobs in Townsville who were from Victoria, it went through the roof. They were the majority of our applicants because they didn't know when the lockdowns were going to end, and they just wanted to come to a place where they could. Some people were sick of working from home and they wanted the structure of going to an office every day. Because in Townsville, your commute is not an hour or an hour and a half or whatever it might be in a major city. 10 minutes. Yeah, and anything more than 15 minutes we get salty about. And I remember talking to someone who had come up from Victoria, and she was just absolutely gobsmacked at the fact that she lived on the opposite side of town and could get there in 15 minutes. And she said, I used to think I'd love to work from home forever, but I actually love that I get to come to work and have the structure of an office, because there's a lifestyle here that we just don't get down south. And it's pushed a lot of people up north, but I think now that the restrictions have lifted down south, they're all like, oh, we'll go back to the nice weather.
The reasonable weather where it's not so hot that you actually really can't have a shower because it's not practical.
Yeah, even a cold shower is going to be like 30 degrees.
No, it is very fascinating. And as someone who lived in one of the capital cities, you know, my commute was 20 minutes at least. And now I get mad if it's 7 minutes. So I live 5 minutes away from where I work. So, you know, it's like, if I have to wait too long to get through the roundabout in the middle of town, I'm mad. Like,
that's a Queenslander for you, absolutely. Because
exactly.
Like, for me, coming from town, so I look at Brisbane traffic and I'm like, but
we like, Brisbane hates the fact that it's becoming more and more like Sydney and Melbourne so much that we're like actively trying to stop it. Yeah,
there's nothing quite so infuriating as Sydney traffic. Like, I've got family that live there, and we try not to visit because it's just, you spend more time driving than actually doing anything.
You do.
Yeah, I won't say you're actually driving very much. It's just sitting at a lot of traffic lights.
It is. They're obsessed. And I think it's like an unhealthy relationship. They got like a toxic ex, and it's traffic.
Yeah.
So when you were creating content, obviously you weren't in like uber lockdown. You were still, you know, the world was still shut. You couldn't like really go anywhere. You can't go take a holiday or something. But, you know, you weren't super locked down.
No.
Did you find that like your experience of blowing up the internet, because you kind of were still interacting with people in an office and, you know, or people at work, and, you know, you still were going to the shops and things, your experience of blowing up on the internet, you felt like you were still touching grass at the same time? Yeah,
absolutely. Because my content creation had to fit in around my 8 till 5 job. As well as being a mum. At the time, Carter was not quite 2. It's crazy to think that he's about to turn 5, and people are literally watching him grow up on the internet. But yeah, like I would race to try and film something, anything, whatever, in the car before I walked into work. And I was like, okay, it's 5 to 8. I've got 5 minutes. I can get this video out. Or like just getting into my car after work in the afternoons, and like I would sit at my desk when I had a quiet moment and write little content ideas on Post-it notes. So I'd keep them in my wallet or in my handbag, and I'd get into the car and I'd shuffle through the Post-it notes about, right, I can make a quick video about that right now. And I think one of the things that was good about that is that for the people who were working from home, I was generally posting at a time where there was a higher engagement online. And I don't know if it was just chance, but some of my videos just blew up in ways I didn't expect. I mean, I love when people say, oh, I never expected that video to go viral. And it's like, well, why'd you post it? You wanted it to go viral.
Exactly.
Like, if you're out here on the internet creating content, the goal is to create something that goes viral. You're just hoping it goes viral for the right reasons and on the right side of the internet. So
yeah, exactly. And I think that's one of the like really eye-opening things about existing on the internet over the last 3 or so years is that you like there is still this saying, you know, all publicity is good publicity, but it isn't, because you know, when you have people attacking you for your views or what you do or the way that you raise your family and things like that, it becomes incredibly harmful and personal, and it's not something that anyone wants to interact with.
Yeah, absolutely. And no matter how much you tell yourself that it's a reflection of the person making the comment and not on you, you can only get so much of that stuff before it starts to get to you. And we're all human. Exactly. We're pack animals as well. So we always crave connection. We crave connection, and we crave an idea of having our people and our community around us. And we're more isolated as a society, like forget COVID, just in general, we're more isolated than we've ever been. So you start to think you've got your community online and you're starting to feel really good about this little community that you've created, and then a couple of little trolls come in and you go, oh, not everyone's actually a kind human. And that can be really confronting sometimes. I obviously curate my feed and I curate my content in a way that's, you know, unashamedly left-wing, I would call it. That's considered radical to some people, and I'm like, I don't think that everyone having equal rights is radical. I think that should just be the bare minimum. You know, I very much don't like to see racist content, and I'm quite, you know, outwardly outspoken feminist, and that upsets people as well. So because I often put out the same kinds of content, the people who are seeing it generally are the people who connect with that sort of content. But occasionally one of my videos is picked up by someone who holds vastly different views to me. Unfortunately, it seems that on the internet, at least on TikTok, they are incapable of trying to challenge my views in a respectful way. And it can be damaging. The things that get said can be really harmful. I'm really fortunate that I'm old enough and ugly enough that I can switch off and just turn off my phone sometimes and unpack it with my therapist. And I think that's what these people probably should be doing as well, which is why they're doing what they're doing on the internet. But I always think about young creators who've blown up unexpectedly. Like there are some creators who are in their late teens, early 20s, who might not have the life experience behind them to feel confident to ignore those comments or to call them out for what they are. They might internalize them, and it might cause them fear and angst and things like that.
Obviously, you know, you ended up becoming, you know, a lot more well recognized than you probably were. You anticipating to be? Obviously, you said, you know, we don't post content to not be viral, but you know, being that well recognized and that, you know, on ABC radio, as you were saying before we started chatting, you know, is that, you know, were you expecting that at all?
Not at all. I mean, everyone thinks, oh God, wouldn't it be so cool? Wouldn't it be so cool if that happened? I remember the first video that I posted. When I watch it now, I'm like, oh, I'm dying inside, because it feels very forced. And it feels performative. It feels very much like I had practiced a script, because I'd gone, oh, this could be a funny little video. And I think I had like a handful of followers, and they were all friends of mine. So like it's all stuff I'd said to my friends. And I posted that video, and I, like, this is small numbers now, but that video got like 30,000 views. And it was the first video I'd ever posted. And I was like, oh. And someone else had said, oh, you should make this a series, because it was something about like things I've learned about being a mother. And it was sort of tongue in cheek, joking about like, it doesn't matter how you raise your kids, they're still going to have tantrums. And every kid, no matter how well raised they are, can be a bit of an asshole sometimes. And don't bother dressing your kid in expensive clothes, because it doesn't matter whether it's Country Road or Kmart, they'll trash it just the same. And yeah, so I made a couple of videos that were a series, and I think my first sweary video was like 3 or 4 minutes in, and it took off. It was insane. It was a video joking about the difference between the way that I behave when my son is in the car versus when he's not. And there were a lot of expletives in there that you wouldn't repeat in polite company. And it was very much tongue-in-cheek, being a bogan, a bit Townsville, because one of the things I've always said when someone's taking too long at a roundabout is, oh, careful, love, there might be one coming from Ingham. And people just really laughed at, like, they liked the, going from Baby Shark to, really explicit rap music. And I think every parent could relate to like dropping the kid off and becoming a completely different person. And that was one of those videos that when I posted it with my friend, she was like, oh, that's really funny. That's going to do so well. I reckon you'll get like 10,000 views on that. And I woke up the next morning to like 100,000 views and 20,000 followers. And I was like, oh my God, what now? And it's sort of like, we're creatures of ego. I love the validation that I got. And again, COVID, we weren't doing a lot of things socially. So it was some social interaction for me. And I really loved the attention. I'm not going to lie. I loved that I could post something and people would be like, that's so funny. And oh my God, I relate to that. And it created some conversations in the comments, which I enjoyed. And yeah, like it's surreal to this day to think that I'm in the position that I'm in. And I do want to preface all of this by saying that, like, I've got, I think it's like 315,000 followers on TikTok, which in the world of TikTok, very small fish in a very, very big pond. And there are other creators who just, what has Charlie D'Amelio got now? God knows. I don't even know. I don't keep up with that. But
she would want to think about that. I'm
certain it's like over 200 million at this point. Like, it's ridiculous. Yeah. So yeah, small fish, but it's still amazing to think that that opportunity has landed in my lap, and I feel very fortunate that I've just managed to take that and run with it. The cards just lined up for me. I think at different times in my life, I wouldn't have been in a position to have, say, the money to start the merch business on the side, which has now become my main income stream. And I don't know that I would have had the corporate knowledge that I have, thanks to my career that I had held, the corporate knowledge to negotiate contracts on paid content and things like that. I probably would have been taken advantage of had I not had that experience with contract negotiation. So yeah, just the stars lined up, and it just has been, it's all fallen in my lap, and I'm just trying to make the most of it while I've got that opportunity, because it is something that I feel I might not have access to forever, and I'd like to really strike while the iron's hot.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I think also because you've got, 2 relatively young children. You were pregnant for like, everyone's pregnant for 9 months, but you had
41 weeks.
A child in the middle of all of this,
41 weeks exactly I was with the second one. Yeah, so that's another thing that's quite surreal to think of, the fact that people followed my pregnancy journey. While we were waiting for Charlie to make his entrance, and I was dancing him out into the world. And the very last one of those videos, I had actually my waters had already broken. And because I'd had these long days, and I was basically posting those dancing videos just before I went to bed at night, and my waters had broken. Yeah. And I go, I haven't done my video. People are going to know. So we posted that video at like 10 o'clock at night. And by that stage, we were in the car on the way to the hospital. But it was just nice to know that people didn't know just yet.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know, it's very fascinating. I think there's been a couple of like sets of content, like especially I think motherhood content, and like genuine, like real Aussies that haven't, that like, I don't know, I have very conflicted opinion about the Australian influencer market, because it seems to like this content blew up through COVID, and then all these management brands kind of
popped up out of nowhere.
Popped out of nowhere, pounced on everyone, and everyone's like signed to some sort of management. I don't know. What was your experience with, did people approach you going, we'd love to manage you, and did you accept? Did you?
I'm self-managed. I manage all my own contract negotiations, which also means that when I run my merch, I get 100% of the profits of it. So that was one of my reasonings behind that. There are a lot of management companies out there, and not a lot of them, I feel, work in the best interest of the content creators that they claim to support. I know everyone's got different experiences. I have had friends in the content creation world who were, say, signed with one label and felt like they were getting left behind, and they were getting really sick of not getting the same opportunities as other creators within their community at that agency. And they've left that agency and they have approached other agencies. And even though this person is verified and doing amazing content that people love, people love that person's content, no matter how many times they approach this agency that everyone seems to want to work with, I don't know why, she keeps getting knocked back. And I'm like, oh, that's a bit strange. And we talk about it often, and there is definitely a bit of thin pretty privilege going on. When you look at the people that do get signed to this particular agency, they're all sort of under the age of 30, very conventionally attractive and typically thin. There are some plus size creators who are with these agencies as well, but they are definitely the minority, and I think you're exception to the rule. And because I quite frankly, I don't want to engage with an agency who quite openly shows their cards. They show the way they feel about the plus size community, and I consider myself plus size. I don't want to work with those agencies. So there was one that reached out to me, but I had a look at the other people they represented, and they were content creators that were controversial at times, and I didn't know if I wanted to be associated with those particular content creators. So I made a decision then based on my values, and I'm happy with that decision. I'm not upset about that decision at all. There are obviously days where I think maybe if I had an agent, maybe I'd be verified by now, like little things like that, because it is in a lot of the cases where people were verified, it was their agents doing all the legwork for it, and I just couldn't be stuffed. I just couldn't be bothered. So
it was very fascinating. Look, to be honest, a lot of the Aussie creators that I really enjoyed following, so many of them are signed, and as a independent kind of no-name person who is chatting to a whole bunch of amazing people, and I have a lot of my roots are in the States. Like a lot of my what this podcast started out of the fact that I spoke to my friends from the States, and they helped me get it all off the ground. And, you know, I'm trying to fix the balance now because I really do want to showcase the amazing Australian people that I know and am aware of. But because of that, watching everyone get picked up by, you know, be represented by someone, I'm like, okay, but if I wanted to reach out to you now, I'm having to go through your agency and get vetted by your agency. Who knows who's doing that? And like, I work in the news. I am so ready to dismiss people when they come to me for stories because it's like, well, I've actually got more important things to work on, and I'm sure these people do the same. Admittedly, mine comes out of like, I think a journalist has a little bit of ground to stand on and going, well, we're not going to run that story because XYZ, you know. There's usually rules and regulations around it, and there probably is a logic and reasoning, but it does give me the ick. It's like it almost like monopolizes on the whole Australian content creation industry. And then it's like, well, how is anyone supposed to break through? How is anyone who is different, doesn't fit the norm, maybe doesn't do it full time? As you said, plus size, over the age of 30. Oftentimes, especially a lot of queer people don't get a lot of representation as well. Or people doing something completely different with the platform as well. Like, all of these people look the same. Their content looks the same. And yes, they might have an interesting story to tell, but I can't approach them because they are, you know, they're signed to a label,
and you've got to talk to that agent. And I am in two minds, because I do think like a lot of particularly like clothing brands and things like that, they need to pay creators for their work, and it's really frustrating how often brands that openly boast about their success don't want to pay influencers to promote their products. It's like, that's fine. If you don't want to pay an influencer, pay a marketing agency. And I'm sure you'll pay much more for what this person's offering. So I understand for some people the need for that representation, because not everyone is willing to respond in an email and say, no, my prices are firm, take it or leave it. That's what it is. And that's what the agent does for a lot of those people. But you're right, in situations like this where there's publicity involved, but it might not be paid publicity, and the agent might not see a value in it, and it might not ever get put in front of the content creator who may have been more than willing to get involved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is, and it's really... I don't want to blast, completely blast, and these agencies. They do a lot of work for these people. I worked in publishing for all of 6 months. I worked in book publishing for all of 6 months, but it was a part of an internship that I did, and I ended up staying for an extra 3 months longer than I was asked to be, and I really loved it. I had to let it go when I moved, but it was very fascinating to be a small independent publishing place and going, how can we, with no money, increase the eyes on our content, the eyes on our books, and people buying our books and sharing these things. And, so a lot of the work I did was trying to get social media as an integral part of the marketing strategy.
Yeah, well, because I think it is very much the cornerstone of most companies advertising these days. Couldn't tell you the last time that I listened to a commercial radio station. Couldn't tell you the last time I watched commercial TV.
I had to watch commercial TV on Friday. I watched it for 3 hours, and I think I died a little on the inside.
Oh, one of my friends is on Taskmaster, and I want to watch it because she's amazing and she's so funny. Yeah. If you've ever seen her, Danielle Walker, she's so funny. This is Townsville being tiny. We worked at Telstra together.
Yes,
and it was really funny because whenever we used to banter, she used to jokingly say to me, "You should be a comedian," and she's doing that now. And I was like, "You were much funnier than me." But I want to watch that show to support her, and I'm watching like 10 Play or what I think it's 10 Play that it's on, and every 5 minutes there's 3 consecutive Triton ads, and I'm like, I'm never going to buy a Triton. Just let me skip.
Yes, exactly. Actually, I can understand commercial TV, having worked in television a little bit. It's like, it's not the least palatable thing. The least palatable thing about the commercial TV networks is their streaming offerings, because they are somehow worse than watching TV, free to air, in my opinion. Because
at least if I was watching free to air, there'd be a variety of ads.
Yeah. And it's like, oh, at least I can walk away and, like, it's playing, like, theoretically you could probably play it on the TV, but it's like, at least it's happening and I kind of have to sit there and watch it. Like, it's not like I can pause this, go and do the washing, and then completely forget that I was halfway through a Taskmaster episode. So my default at the moment is the ABC, but, Auntie has its ups and downs as well. But yeah, no, it is very... It is quite hard to, know where you, like, what kind of success you have when you don't have someone who is, like, running the analytics and being super analytical. And as you said,
but even just that, someone who's doing the legwork involved in growing. A lot of these content creators can just focus on making content because someone else is handling their emails with friends. Someone else is like, oh, there's this really cool event that's got a red carpet. We're going to try and get you to that red carpet. Whereas, like, if I wanted to attend the red carpet thing, I would probably have to approach someone, and that gives me the ick. That feels really entitled, because there is a type of content creator out there that will openly just ask for things because of who they are and what they have as a platform. And I think that's also me coming from a small town where still quite a large population of Townsville don't know who the fuck I am. And and there are people who go, oh, you must walk into restaurants and just flash your social media and get a free meal. And I'm like, I would rather die. I would rather die.
And also, like, coming from a country town as well, and, like, my father was born and grew up in Alice Springs, so very familiar with, like, the small communities that exist there. But it's like, there's no way in hell you are going to walk into there and go and demand, like, A, the horror stories I've heard about influencers demanding free meals. But also, B, there's no way you're walking into there and going, hey, can I have a free meal? Because it's like, this is someone's business. Like,
this is someone's livelihood.
Yeah. You probably know the person who owns that restaurant. Like, look, the town I live in has only got 5,000 people in it, but, it is still enough of a population. It's small enough that, like, I know the guy who owns half the businesses in town, and I know the other guy who owns, you know, a couple other big businesses. And, you know, when someone gets in trouble or there's a big thing happening, everyone knows. Like, it's an open secret at that point. And then it comes to the newspaper, and we're like, well, can we print this, or has this not been verified? The rumour mill moves fast in a small Australian country town.
In saying that, I guess Townsville's probably a bit bigger. Like, we've got 179,000, I think.
Yeah.
Because I think I Googled it when
have
someone...
an actual airport, yeah.
Yeah, well, someone asked me what it was like to be massive on TikTok. I was like, oh, I'm not that big. And she was like, it's almost twice the population of Townsville. And I actually Googled the population to find out. I was like, oh, okay, yeah, maybe I'll give myself props for that. But it's weird that it's a big city with we've got a transient community because of the university and the Defence Force. But it's big enough that, like, you can still hide in the crowd a little bit. I've got a really good balance. I can hide in the crowd a little bit, but I still get recognised. Like, if I'm at Coles, you can guarantee there's at least 3 or 4 people that either stop me or will message me later to say they saw me.
Yeah. It's like, it's close-knit enough that, and I think it's the very happy medium. It's like, well, I'm a local celebrity, but also, like, people are like, this is, like, too big of a town for me to just go and approach her out of nowhere.
Yeah. That's a really good way of putting it. Like, I wouldn't call myself a local celebrity because the local paper hates me.
What happened? Actually, it's News Corp. I'm not surprised they hate you.
So the I don't know who it is at the Townsville Bulletin that always puts together their they do these, like, Townsville's biggest creators, and I'm never on the list. And, like, not to be that guy, but I'm like, I literally have more followers than every single one of the people on this list. And usually it's when a bunch of people comment and tag me and they're like, are you forgetting AshyAnne? And it's literally happened like 3 or 4 times now where the article gets published, I'm not in it, and then they do like an edit and add me. They have never approached me for an interview, but they will like screen grab stuff from my content. And I'm like, guys, my phone is here. My email is so easily accessible. Like, DM me, like, we can chat. And recently I did an interview with someone from Courier Mail. And it was one of those cases where they just pushed the same article out to all of the regional papers. And everyone's like, you finally made the bulletin. And I'm like, no, I didn't.
No.
I actually didn't.
It's fascinating. So the newspaper I work for here isn't owned by News Corp or anything, which thank goodness, because I was having a heart attack of having to consider actually having to work for News Corp. It's owned by a group. There's a bit like a rich family just owns like a whole bunch of newspapers in North Victoria.
Nice.
And so it does. Things get pushed to other papers, and it's like, no, there's a completely different set of journalists who wrote that story. We have nothing to do with. Someone will ring us up complaining, and we're like, oh, we didn't write that story. Like, we know the journalists who wrote that story. We met
didn't
them,
do it.
but like. Yeah, that's a completely different editorial decision. Someone else made the decision of whether it went to print, and we just picked it up and printed it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
I don't know.
It's quite funny. I was just going to say, there's a little bit of a running joke in Townsville because they did photos of all the prep classes at the local primary schools, and of course my son was in one of them, and all of my friends sent me that, and they're like, lol, your kid gets in the paper but you don't. I'm just like, fuck you.
Yes, fuck you, get out of here. Fuck you, child, you have to start paying rent if you're going to be more influential than I am.
Luckily, he's hard to pick out of the crowd because I was like, I had a bit of a moment of like, oh, there might be people who recognise him.
Yeah. I don't know. It's weird. I always get the heebie-jeebies when children make it into the paper. It's like, I understand. Like, that's the community wants to know what's going on at the local primary school, but also there's like parents and children. Like, obviously, everyone signed the release to like have their kids' face published, but you know, it still doesn't. It doesn't always sit with me very well.
I don't know how much attention you've paid to my content over the last like 6 to 12 months, but I've actually been making a bit of an effort to feature my children less and less in my content.
Oh,
yeah. So
where did that come from?
A few places. As I became a bit more well known, there were a couple of times I was out at the shops, and they were well-meaning people. But people who would go, oh my God, Carter, hi. and he didn't know who these people were. And I'm trying to teach my child about stranger danger and like we don't talk to people we don't know. And, you know, the difference between a trusted adult and someone who's not a trusted adult. And then there's all these people who sort of rock up and they recognize my son as well as me. And again, as I know that none of these people, they didn't appear to be people who would ever wish me or my child harm. It was that sort of realization of like, my child's face is as recognizable as mine if I continue to put him on the internet the way that I was doing previously. So I've made an effort to scale that back. And it's hard because he actually wants to be involved in some of my videos. And you know, he always says, "Oh, what do your friends think of this, Mum?" And then I have to make a conversation. Like I have to explain that they're not actually like my friends' friends. They are. There's lots of people who see it, and so, and you know, I always make a point of like being careful what my children are wearing in a video. I won't post him in his school uniform, or if it is, it's blurred out. Things like that. I won't let people know. And it just came from sort of some conversations with other content creator friends. Are you aware of Natalie's?
I think I am, very vaguely.
Yeah, so she posts a lot of really wholesome content with her kids. She recently, I think it was last year or the year before, she came out as bisexual. So she openly identifies as part of the queer community. She's a single mum who escaped a DV relationship, and her children are, you know, are part of her. They're part of her world, and she puts her world on the internet, and she makes beautifully wholesome content. And some of the comments that are received about her children are vile. There was a page that was created dedicated to slandering off her son with homophobic slurs, and her child was like 5. No way, not on. Like. And so even though she has really good conversations with her children about online safety and, you know, her children are still featured in her videos, she protects them from what they might potentially see. But she and I were having a conversation, and I just thought, you know what, I'm gonna take from what you've told me, and I'm gonna make some changes to the way that my children appear on my socials if they do. So. It's a hard one where like when children are in a public space, like and my mother, bless her soul, is so worried about like when you put things online, because obviously when you put something online, it's there forever. And, even if you delete it, someone's already taken a screenshot.
Yeah, exactly. Look at the Harry Styles thing where he posted a photo to his Instagram story and deleted it, and everyone took screenshots.
Everyone's like, okay, we've got it, mate. Don't worry.
Yeah. But you know, it is a scary thing. And so for a very long time, I didn't have social media. Like I got Facebook at age 16, and the only reason I got it was to be in a messenger group chat with my father and some of his mates, because we crossed the Simpson Desert and back. When I was 16, and then didn't get Instagram until probably like year 11, so I was like 17 at the time. And didn't get Twitter until about 5 weeks into my journalism degree, where I then my professor insisted that every person in the class get a Twitter account. Because especially in journalism, that's where a lot of news articles and a lot of information is dispersed now. I feel like if we're not participating in social media, we are actually not participating in society. But it has meant that I'm a step behind everything. So I'm still like, my mother's voice still speaks in the back of my head of like, if I put this here, I regret posting it like later. Like what the hell? And when I decided to start creating this podcast, coming up on, 2 years ago now, 2 full years of doing this, like it was kind of scary, because I was like, I'm having conversations with these people, and yes, other people are really good at like, okay, this is what, I'm saying, and I'm being very careful about what I'm saying, but like, how am I going to, like, I'm the oldest of 10 children. I have 9 other siblings younger than myself.
Did you just say 10?
Yeah, 10.
I want to give your mum a fucking high five, mate, because that is a champion effort. There is, I, with all due respect, no fucking way. Holy fuck, your mum is an absolute legend.
I don't know how my mother does it, to be honest.
Me either. I struggle with 2.
I have 10 other siblings. The youngest is 1.5. Like, there is like nothing I can, like, they're children, and I don't want to like dox them. I don't want to, put them in a position where I've said something about them or like misrepresented their character because I don't know what, I don't live at home anymore. I haven't lived at home for 3 years.
Yeah.
I don't know, like, I don't know what goes on at home. I haven't lived at home with my younger sibling at all. I've completely moved out by the time he was born.
Yeah.
And so it is this scary, like, section of, like, I speak about my family very, very, very carefully. Like, there are full, like, 10-minute conversations of podcasts I've deleted because it's like, there is no way that is going online.
Yeah.
I don't need to explain X, Y, and Z about this sibling. Like, but it's terrifying that, I put content online. My siblings, especially my adult siblings, are very much anti. They don't want to put anything online.
Yeah,
it's so and unfortunately, it's a fact of life. My life will be online. I will cop abuse. I've received all kinds of offensive messages, mail, threats, all kinds of stuff. Mostly by the nature of my work, but also, by the nature that I've put myself out there. And I think they're terrified because they don't want to handle that. It's not their job. And I agree, it's not their job that they should have to deal with that. And it's very fascinating with parents who create family style content or talk about their families, how they interact with A, consent, but also B, being online as well, it would be very fascinating. Yeah.
I've made a real point of discussing consent with my son before he could talk. And people are like, oh, how do you even do that? And it's as simple as explaining like, hey mate, I'm about to change a nappy. That's how our conversation started.
Yeah.
Mummy doesn't feel like being touched right now. I asked my son if he would like a photo, and because he watches a lot of YouTube channels too. He watches a lot of those channels where kids unbox. So even he's nearly 5, he wants his own YouTube channel, and I don't want to do that for him. I feel like it's just a different world you and I have grown up in versus what my child is coming into. And I am a millennial. We didn't have internet in our home till I was 12 or 13, and even then it was dial-up internet. One person could use it at a time, and download speed. Good luck. Like you wanted to do you wanted to search, Encyclopedia Britannica, and it was quicker to get the book from the library than it was to Google something. And social media for me didn't really become a thing till I was in my senior year, and that was MySpace. Facebook for me I didn't really get into Facebook till like my second year of uni or something like that. So I was an adult. I mean, I was still a young, stupid adult, but a lot of the dumb things I may have said and done as a teenager are not out on the internet for people to see. And I've even had to sort of look at some of the content that I've put out, and I'm filming the content and I'm posting it from the perspective of a parent. And I now have to remind myself of this video exists forever. What will my son think when he's older? So I talk a lot about gentle parenting, and I have at times posted videos of myself reacting to a tantrum. So my son's not in the video because I'm not putting a camera in my son's face while he's having a tantrum, but I might just be recording myself and what my side of that interaction looks like. And like I did a video, I think it was about a month or 2 ago, where my son, just being a weird 4-year-old boy, because 4-year-old boys are weird sometimes, coming in and like putting his head through the door and like asking to smell my poo. And it was just sort of done tongue in cheek, but there were people in my comments who were absolutely outraged that I posted that video because, what if my son, when he's older, is mortified about that video? And, I can't, as we've said, there's no point taking it down now. It's out there. But that is something I may have to be prepared for those conversations. And I think I've already spoken to my husband about, like, how will we have these conversations with our boys if they come up? I'm hoping that I'm raising my children to have the sort of sense of humor that's self-deprecating the way that I have. But most millennials have a self-deprecating humor based on childhood trauma. So maybe I don't want him to be self-deprecating in his humor. But I do hope that he sees the funny side in these things, but I could be wrong, and that's something I'll have to live with as a parent.
It's been very fascinating being now I get to tell how old I am. I'm only 21, so like I'm not that old.
No, but in my opinion, like anyone under the age of 30 now is a child. I'm like, back, you got so long to go, darling.
This is so long. But it's very fascinating over the last 3 years, A, being quite online, but B, also watching my siblings, go from 10 through to, or, you know, basically going from like early preteens through to teenagers through to, you know, I have a sibling who's in their final year of high school at the moment, and watching them and their interactions with the content that my mother creates. So my mother is very much a Facebook mum. I think she feels inherently guilty that none of, like, myself, my brothers who are twins, who've been on the podcast before, and the fourth child have all had like photo books created of their photos of their child, you know, photo of my mother pregnant, you know, the typical, you know, photos that you have of kids in like a photo book. My mother hasn't done that for the rest of the children.
Well, look, I struggle to do it with the second one because I'm too busy with two children. So I can imagine once child number, you know, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 come along that you're not even remembering to take photos at all.
Well, this is the thing. So I think over the last like 5-10 years, she's really kind of compensated in the opposite direction by taking lots of photos and posting some of those on Facebook, obviously being careful as to what she's sharing online. But, you know, and watching my siblings react to my mother posting things on Facebook, whether it's every year she takes a photo of all the kids lined up on the driveway before they head off to their first day of school. It's very cute. Yeah. It's amazing to watch the passage of time of the place that we live in, but also the kids. Yep. And, you know, things like that, watching kids react to that. And you have like that period of not immaturity, but as you're developing your maturity, where you're like, my mother's posting photos of me online. Ew. My mum's doing anything cool, hip, you know.
Oh my God, my mum is so cringe.
Yeah. And it's like, oh, okay. And I think there is, like, if anyone's posted any content about their children, there is going to be that point of discomfort of like, you know, oh, my mother talks about me online. Like, that's disgusting. Or what is she doing? Like, you know, and I think some do a really good job of it, and it'd be very fascinating. Speaking of children at school, how do you, obviously you're a full-time content creator now, and you've managed, I really also wanted to touch on your merch brand as well. How do you get work done while you, like, between the school drop-offs? I've had to look after kids at school and like spend the day at home. There is not enough time to do the school run, and
it's really difficult. I'm really fortunate that Charlie is in full-time daycare, and I'll never not feel guilty about utilizing daycare, but I'm one of those people that doesn't have a family network to rely on, so my support network is paid for. It is what it is. And at my son's school, I was able to get 4 days a week where he can go to after-school care. So Monday, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, I have theoretically until 6 p.m. to get shit done. I usually pick the kids up around 5-ish because I feel guilty anything later than that, because I was the kid who was always the last to get picked up from daycare because my mum was very career focused, and I count myself lucky that I have the sort of career that I can work around my children. But I very much struggle to draw the line between work and home life because I work from home. We're working on that. I'm building myself an office in the shed, so it's physically separated from the house so that I can be like, I'm in work mode now, taking advantage of the days that my husband, as today, like, you know, he's taken the boys out so that we could do this podcast without little people coming and interrupting constantly. Between the hours of 9 and, let's say, 5, I am also doing the majority of the domestic labour, just because of the type of work my husband does. He's just not home to get it done. And there are a lot of people who see it as this, like, you know, gender inequity. But if I were to get on my high horse and say, no, I'm not doing it, I'm doing exactly half of it, and that's it, just wouldn't get done. And I don't really want to do that. So, and you know, again, if I make a generalized comment about gender inequity, people assume it's a reflection of my relationship, and it's not. And again, that comes with people making assumptions based on what they see on the internet and whatever. Don't have the energy to argue with people who are committed to misunderstanding me. So in the mornings, I often, because I have the business on the side, one of the first priorities most busy weekdays is, have I got orders to pack? Getting those orders packed. Given my business structure, every 5 to 6 weeks is when I have a launch. So that first week, you will have the majority of the orders. And I always schedule those around my husband's roster where I know he's going to be home in a way that he can support me, because he has a very good roster where he does 2 day shifts, 2 night shifts, and then 4 straight days off. So on the days that he's working, he's out of the house for about 14 hours a day, and I just have to make it work. But on the days that he's at home, he can do school drop-offs, he can do school pickups, and I can just work. And again, that's a privilege for me to have a partner who is so supportive and who has a flexible employment arrangement that works to our advantage. I'm always one to identify where I have privilege. And again, it's a privilege that I can afford daycare and that I can afford after school care, because that is something that I've been able to do using my business. So in the mornings I will pack the orders and then do whatever admin I do, and the housework that gets thrown in there. It's just, it's a big juggle. I'd like to say I'm organised, but I'm not. Never been organised in my life. I'm so scrambled, and I try to write lists when things need to get done. And I'm really good at when I'm under the pump, I can get it done. I can cram about 4 hours of work into 2 hours sometimes, but it's not uncommon that I'm on my phone in bed next to my sleeping child, answering emails with brands. It is what it is. When you are working for yourself, it's not a 9 to 5, it's a 24/7.
Like, how do you not then like start approaching burnout and things like that? How do you kind of, like, even for myself, managing this podcast isn't a 24/7 job. It is literally probably a good 5 hours out of my week. It's not that big, but but
that's on top of the job you've already got.
Yeah, but it's still also feels all consuming from time to time. How do you balance that?
I don't know that I do particularly well.
High functioning.
No, 100%. I have diagnosed generalized anxiety disorder, and I was raised by a baby boomer and a Gen X, and they were raised to believe that you work and you work and you work. So I'm having to relearn what it means to set boundaries, because I have experienced burnout on a number of occasions, and what that looks like for me is an absolute blank when it comes to content. So in the early days of TikTok, when it was, just for fun, I could just sit in front of my phone and just say something off the cuff and post it and not even have to think about creating content. It just came to me. When I'm approaching burnout, I've got to plan content. And I've got to really, it feels like drawing blood from a stone, because my creativity is the first thing that goes when I'm starting to feel burnout. And because I now rely on social media to drive traffic to my website, to pay my bills and keep the roof over our heads, there is sometimes a pressure that you feel to keep feeding the algorithm to make sure that anyone sees your content, and that hopefully drives sales. And that can be all consuming, because my husband will tell you right now, he hates how much I'm on my phone. And it's hard to explain that, yes, I'm on my phone a lot, but I'm also juggling our 2 children, and I'm also doing the majority of the housework. So if it looks like I'm on my phone a lot when you're home, it's because I'm taking advantage of the fact that there's another responsible adult in the house to worry about the children, so that I can do this. And I think if I was in my office at a computer, it might not look quite so dismissive of what's going on around me, but because we live on our phones and I work through my phone, it can look like I'm an absent parent sometimes.
Exactly. It's a hard one to get as well, because we do everything is through these little black boxes on our phones. And like, especially time sensitive, when you're dealing with brands and you feel like it's one shot and it's gone. It's kind of terrifying, to be honest. Have you ever taken time off? Like, has that been something you've considered? Earlier in February, I started to sense that I wasn't okay, and I'm not suggesting I was about to have a psychotic break or it was anything major. But the work that I've been doing with my therapist to try and identify when I'm feeling burnt out, because when I'm burnt out, it's my family that suffers most, and I do these things for my family. So as soon as I start to feel myself struggling, I need to take a step back for the benefit of my family and myself, because I'm no good to anyone if I become a potato. So I sensed myself struggling, and what was getting to me was I had just had a massive launch. February was my biggest business month to date, which amazing, and so grateful and
still pinching myself that was my reality. But I had to post 400. I had to pack and post 480 orders in a week, and I did it in a week. And what that meant was I was getting up every day, walking to my computer at 5 a.m. in the morning, printing off postage labels and shipping manifests, and standing in my kitchen from the moment I got home from school drop off to the moment I went to do the school pickup, and just packing orders and just packing orders and packing orders. And I didn't eat properly. I wasn't looking after myself. I wasn't sleeping very well because I felt this insane pressure to get the orders done and packed as soon as possible. And in that, I was also trying to create content so that my page didn't go stagnant and I didn't lose followers or lose engagement. So after that, I just felt myself feeling this enormous sense of tired, and I was really easily irritable. And I noticed that like the negative comments were just affecting me way more than they normally would, because normally when I get those comments, I laugh at them and I can usually find a really funny video to make in response to those comments. But instead they were getting to me, and I was internalizing those comments, and I was like, okay, I need to take a break. And so I deleted TikTok off my phone for, I think it was like 5 days.
Oh no, the drafts.
I know. No, it was so good. It cleared up so much space on my phone because I went from having 600 drafts, and then I was like, you know what though? If I haven't posted them, I'm probably not going to post them.
I try to go once a month through my drafts. Usually there's a gem there somewhere.
I've tried to do that before, and then I go to post it and I'm like, oh, never mind. Or I say something like, oh, my hair's a completely different color. They're going to know it's an old draft. That's the problem with changing your hair color every 6 weeks. So, I deleted TikTok off my phone for about a week, and then I still engage with my Instagram community because I find that Instagram as a whole is much more supportive. The Instagram algorithm is completely different in that people only see your content if they're subscribing to you, and I love that. Because it's where I have a community that generally holds the same views as me. So if I'm upset about something and I feel the need to voice it and talk about it, I'm not likely to get a lot of sexist comments coming at me. I'm not likely to get a lot of misogyny. I mean, there is the odd couple here and there. But I tend to find that the community is more supportive when I am having a low moment, and they really looked after me, I have to admit. And it's weird to say that the majority of these people are complete strangers. But they genuinely helped keep me afloat. And when I felt ready, I just reinstalled TikTok. And I was talking to a friend who's a content creator. I'm like, do I like reintroduce myself or do I say something? And she's like, your fucking page, just post a video. And if people ask questions, you don't have to answer them. And I was like, damn right, that's very true. So I just went back to posting, and thankfully it's been okay.
Yeah. And like looking to the future, what are you hoping to do further with your page, or are you happy where you are at the moment?
Honestly, the long-term goal, I would love to see myself doing stand-up comedy. That has always been a goal of mine. And just when I was younger, I was always sort of told, are you sure you want to do that? You're a fat girl. Are you sure you want to be a fat girl on stage? People might make fun of you. And I'm like, well, people make fun of me fucking anyway. I may as well get paid while they're doing it. So, and I think it is something that given where I'm at the moment, it would be a relatively easy transition. The reason I haven't done it yet is that I have 2 children who depend on me, and I can't go touring. I can't go do the RSL circuit while I've still got a breastfed baby. So it's probably something I'm looking to in the next 2 to 5 years. I've already had chats with some content creators who we could team up with and do some collaborations so that we are sharing the load and having someone to bounce off, because that's the kind of comedy that I think would work best in the setting that we're looking at. Obviously, if TikTok keeps going, amazing. I always seem to find new things to make content about. Like most recently, it was the series of videos relating to like HR information. And they were just sort of funny videos, like your workplace is a red flag if it does X, Y, Z. But the response to that was insane, because people were like, oh my God, that's so true. And I was able to get some follow-on videos where people had sort of uninformed opinions about, lazy younger generations, and I was able to tell them why that was wrong, which was like, you know, I thought was a really good way to broach something that Australian society really struggles with, and that is that, you know, we are the entitled generation. It's like, well, actually, we're not. So I felt really validated that I was able to put some intelligent content out there. It felt nice to not just be the funny swearing mum, and to show people that there's a side of me that, you know, there is a university education lurking in this brain, and sometimes I use it. So if I'm able to keep finding content that resonates with people, I'm going to keep posting it, and I just hope that people continue to enjoy it. I have looked at doing some podcasting. It's another thing that I've got to find the time to do. But while my business is doing quite well, I really want to channel some of my most of my creative energy there, because again, TikTok isn't monetized, so I don't want to put so much effort into something that, you know, doesn't help keep the food on the table. So being able to channel my creative energy and my sense of humor into something that's like profitable, that's obviously the main goal.
Yeah, exactly. It's all very exciting. I'm really looking forward to it. And the stand-up comedy aspirations, look, I definitely think there are way more people in Australia that are way too funny to not be on stage talking.
I know.
And it's a typical arts thing. You work in the arts or something, it's like, oh, so you're still doing the journalism thing. Oh, you're still doing the music thing. And it's like, please, can you shut the fuck up?
Yeah.
Like, please.
Well, people always say, like, oh, you know, how long can you do this for? It's not a real job. And I'm like, if it's not a real job, why am I making more money than I ever made in a corporate position?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Exactly. And my brother works in aviation, and he turned around to me, he goes, you know, you don't work when he gets angry, he makes comments about my work, and he goes, you know, you don't work a real job, you know, you kind of sit around there and bum around. And my father, whenever he overhears this, he turns around to him. He's also an aircraft engineer. He turns around to my brother and goes, he will make more money than you at the end of the day, because people want to see his stuff. And it's like, oh shit, people actually see the things I do. Fuck, please don't perceive me. But you know, it is a very weird situation. I don't know. It's very exciting time, I think, for anyone who works or is a part of the media landscape. And it's very exciting to see where everyone ends up in the near future. It's gonna be super awesome. Yeah, and the difference in the way that we consume entertainment, and you can see the people who are willing to adapt to the way that society wants to consume entertainment now, and those people are successful, and the people who aren't willing to sort of move with those changes are gonna get left behind, I'm afraid. Like, I think that's exactly. It's just, if you only want to do it one way, that way might not be around forever. So I mean, that's one of the things about the younger generation, is that we know that we've got to have our eye on what's changing and what might be coming in the future, so we keep an eye on those things. Exactly. Well, we're pretty much out of time. Thank you so much, Ashy, for coming on the podcast. It's been amazing. My ego loved it, so... Look, it's one of those things that's like, someone asks you to be on something, it's like, ooh, a different platform. And let's dabble in it. And everyone's dabbling in podcasts, which I think is both good and bad. There's many opinions about it all. But, look... it's like anything. There's plenty of garbage out there, but there's always gems in the rough. Yeah, exactly. Look, where can people find you on the internet? So I am on Instagram as AshyAnne. I'm pretty easy to find there. And on TikTok as AshyAnne. If you search Ashy, I'm usually the second one underneath Ashy Vines. So I'm not the skinny, fit, blonde one. I'm the loud, colourful one. So, yeah, I'm accessible there. And, yeah, that's me for now. And... has there been anything that you've been reading, watching, engaging with that you wanted to plug? I am obsessed with podcasts, so like this is probably good. I don't know if you. I have a handful of podcasts that I routinely bounce between when I run out of episodes. So I will go off a podcast for a little while and let the episodes catch up and then go back to it. One of those is Just the Gist, which is Rosie Waterland and Jacob Stanley. It is very funny, but also very informative. The whole premise of their show is that Rosie or Jacob give you just the gist of something that you thought you knew the whole story of, and it's just enough to sort of say enough at a dinner party to appear intelligent. I find them really funny and engaging. Rosie's also got a second podcast called Mum Says My Memoir is a Lie,
She wrote a book detailing her quite harrowing childhood, and her mum turned around and said, that's not true. So she literally did a podcast with her mum where her mum, I don't know if I should say this on behalf of Rosie, but as a listener, I was like, your mum is gaslighting you. But it was really, it was a really insightful look into the dynamics of a dysfunctional mother-child relationship, and someone who had spent most of her childhood moving in and out of foster homes and being taken out of her mother's care. It was quite an interesting, eye-opening podcast.
Wow.
There is a British podcast called Help, I Sexted My Boss.
I think I've seen it
on TikTok
pass through my recommended. Yeah,
because they're on. I found them because of TikTok, and they are just. It's a.
Is this the guy who's like the adequate? He's like the manners and etiquette guy.
Yes.
Fuck! It is hilarious to watch.
So funny, and the podcast has me in stitches all the time. I like a lot of asinine stuff in the background. So it's one of those where you're not listening to anything overly political or life altering, but it's nice to have two people who basically live very different lifestyles, toing and fro, kind of like an agony aunt sort of situation, and they back and forth over what their take is on a situation. And they're just a really amazing duo. The way they bounce off each other is amazing. I think they've been doing it for 5 years now, so they've nailed the dynamic, and they're really entertaining. And another one I really love is Kaleidoscope News, which is run by Denny. Demi also runs a page called Faternise, and so those are 2 of her podcasts, and I enjoy both of those immensely. So she, her news stories are from a feminist, openly queer lens, and I really enjoy that. Very, what's the word I'm thinking of? My brain has just completely drawn a blank. Intersectional feminist. So she obviously looks at all the different playing factors that come into the stories that we think we know, and she will obviously tell us those stories from a different perspective. And I really like getting news that isn't that doesn't have a corporate agenda. It's nice to get your news that way. And Faternise is really about body positivity and fat liberation movement. And as someone who's undoing a lot of damage that diet culture and eating disorders did to their own bodies, it's a beautiful podcast to listen to talk about the way society treats fat people, and to help to come to understand my place in the world as someone who doesn't conform to a normal idea of attractiveness or whatever. So
yeah, exactly. Well, you can find me at sam.the.journalist on Instagram and on TikTok. You can find me at samobjournalist on Twitter, where I still exist, unfortunately. Much to probably the regret of anyone who spells St. Patrick's Day, the abbreviation St. Paddy's Day, with 2 T's. I got quite upset at the fact that I learnt that people spell it like that, and I know it's probably going to start another whole conversation about it all with some friends of mine, because I found out that people betrayed me in the spelling. Anyway, this week I'm going to plug the TV series Abbott Elementary on Disney Plus or Hulu, I think, slash ABC in the States. It is amazing. It is like, if I think it's very much Office-esque. But with a little bit of Parks and Rec in it. Like, just enough Parks and Rec that I like Abbott Elementary, and just enough Office that I'm like, oh, this does kind of remind me of The Office, and I really don't like The Office. So, you know, fair enough. It's palatable. I really enjoy it. I think that all the characters are really endearing, but it does have that, like, a little bit of awkwardness that The Office kind of has. That, like,
secondhand embarrassment.
Oh, yes, exactly. But the main characters are very much more aligned with, like, Parks and Rec characters. Like Leslie Knope. You can see the Leslie Knope in the series.
Okay. Yep. Cool. Awesome.
Great. There's, like, 2 seasons of it out as well, so you can kind of binge it. And it's really lovely. I really enjoy it.
Well, as soon as my toddler relinquishes control of the controller and I'm not watching Bluey, I might give that a go.
I was supposed to say, there's new episodes of Bluey out, so, you know, we may as
well
watch them while they're out.
I'd be lying if I said I wasn't keen. I love Bluey.
Yeah.
Bluey is just amazing. They tackle some actually difficult discussions in a very warm and nurturing way, and I think it's beautiful.
I think it's something only an Australian content creation team could do is attack it in a very light. We're going to discuss this, but we're not really going to, and we're going to be subtle.
Yeah,
Australians are the masters of the non-verbal communication, the raising of the eyebrows, the word chips for every potato meal we can ever think of.
Yeah.
We've mastered this art, and I think it's something we need to export out to the world.
Absolutely. We need to have more representation out there. And I'm hoping platforms like TikTok do that for us.
Oh, yeah, exactly. Well, it was amazing chatting to you. Thank you so much for jumping on the podcast.
Thank you for having me here. I've spent most of the time looking at my own reflection, but that's fine.
Like every parakeet in a cage.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, can't lie.
Awesome. Content and Capable was recorded, edited and produced by Samuel O'Brien. You can follow the podcast at Content, the letter N, Capable on Instagram and Twitter, and you can find it on Facebook. You can also send an email through to contentandcapablepod@gmail.com with any of your thoughts, queries or concerns. The best way to support the podcast is to leave a review on your preferred podcatcher so more people can hear the podcast. The art was done by Opia, and the music was written, edited and produced by Jason Hilton. Content and Capable is proud to be a part of the Deus Ex Media Network, where you can find a podcast for any of your nerdy interests.
Do you love to be super scared? Do you enjoy listening to hilarious hot takes on timeless classics? Well, fear not, listeners. I'm here! Welcome to the Super Scary Podcast, where we cover everything from the supernatural to the superpowered. I'm your host, Josh, a scaredy cat nerd who enjoys superhero, sci-fi, and horror movies way too much. Whether I'm processing my trauma from Texas Chainsaw Massacre or reminiscing on the nostalgia of Hocus Pocus, my guests and I have a hilarious time going through our favorite and sometimes not so favorite moments. I'm your friend till the end, listeners, because everyone's entitled to one super scary podcast. We post weekly episodes on Mondays, and you can find us at Super Scary Podcast on all the socials. See you in the afterlife, listeners.
Thank you for listening to Content and Capable. Don't forget to rate and review, and we'll see you next week for another episode.
Deus Ex Media.